Hello, hello, hello. It feels like a long time since I've done one of these. In fact, it has been a long time. It's probably about, I don't know, Mark, it's probably about 18 months since I did one of these type of
Oh wow!
webinars. It's a bit like COVID or something. It just
Yeah,
shot me down doing them.
everyone's
But
been quiet.
yeah, I'm pleased that we've started it off with this one, though. So over on my, I don't know if it's my right or my left, depending on which way, over there.
Yeah,
That way. We have Mark Westguard from WS Forms. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, really good. We've had a nice little chat before things began, and
Yeah,
it was learned a little bit about Mark and his life. And I can tell you what, I'm quite jealous. Uh,
don't be too jealous.
No, no. But we're here today to talk about his form plugin, which honestly I think you're going to be impressed with. If you've got the usual relationship with WordPress forms, I'm sure that we can all mention the ones which seem to get talked about rather a lot. Then you are in for a bit of a treat because Mark has managed to build a plugin which does a boatload of things really well. And I'm not really one for exaggeration or hyping things up, but do stick around. I think you're going to have a lot to enjoy and a lot to learn. It'll be fabulous. Just a couple of quick bits of housekeeping, if that's all right. If you are using Facebook and you want to make a comment, then I'll just quickly show this. You have to be either on the wpbuilds.com/live page, and that will use Google. That's YouTube comments. But if you're in the Facebook group, wpbuilds.com/Facebook, then you're going to need to allow Facebook to connect with Restream, the platform that we're using. So basically, if you go to chat.restream.io/Facebook, then we could see who you are. If you want to remain anonymous, then you don't need to do that. The other thing that I just want to say is we'll probably be around here for, I would imagine it'll be something along the lines of an hour, something like that. And hopefully, all things being well, we'll have plenty of chance at the end to ask any questions. The big nightmare with these kind of webinars is that you don't write the question at the time that you thought about it, and you leave it till the end, and then maybe there's no questions, which is fine. But if you do think of something, just stick it in the chat straight away, and I'll just come back to it later on during our Q&A session. So first up, very quick introductions. Mark, tell us about why you've built a plugin to do forms in what feels already like a bit of a crowded space.
Yeah, it is a crowded space, and it's actually getting more crowded with new form plugins coming on the scene. But I've had a web agency for about 26 years, originally from the UK, now live in the US. And we, about 4 or 5 years ago, wanted to develop a WordPress plugin, kind of as a sideline project for the business, for the agency, and decided we really wanted to tackle the form problem. I say problem because we found that every time we built a form, it was almost like putting an alien on your website, and you had to do some special care and attention to get that form styled and look in the way that you wanted it to. And so WS Form was born, and 4 years later, we are still developing it, still working towards the ultimate product. But it just seems that our user base have so many great ideas for it that we want to implement as many of those as possible. But our main aim with this, and we'll go through this during the demo, was to really provide a professional form plugin for developers that would enable you to create quite complex forms very quickly without the need for a ton of PHP coding, or without the need for a lot of additional plugins. But we'll come to that as we go through the demo.
Yeah, that is my sort of big takeaway in a way, really, is that it does really complicated things in a UI that you can easily understand. So
Right.
that if you've ever tried to achieve something in a rival form plugin and you've basically hit a wall, or you've just found it was too complicated, or it simply couldn't do it, then do stick around and watch this, because Mark's going to reveal a boatload of complicated things.
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of which, shall I pop your screen up like that?
There we go.
Yeah, perfect. Now, I'm happy to stay on the screen, or I'll just remove myself from the screen, whichever you prefer, Mark. I'm happy either way. What would you rather?
We'll keep you on the screen.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Feedback.
Yeah.
All right. Should we kick off?
Yeah. Over to you.
Okay, so what you're seeing here is our kind of onboarding screen when you initially install the plugin. I won't go into this in any great detail, but the idea here is that we're trying to understand who you are as a user. If you are fairly new to building forms, then we will kind of simplify the user interface somewhat. If you're a developer, we open up a few more bells and whistles for you, where you can do some more complex stuff. I'm going to go with developer for now, just so that we get all of that. The other thing that WS Form does when it installs is it will actually analyze your framework. It'll look at your theme and see if you're using Bootstrap or Foundation. And if it is, then we'll detect that and we will output HTML that's native to those frameworks. So if you're using a theme that's, for example, is used in Foundation and you use WS Form, the forms will style themselves pretty much out of the box without you needing to do any custom CSS. Of course, you can do custom CSS if you want to on these forms. There's a brief intro video, which we won't bother with for now. Okay, so let's first of all talk about templates in WS Form. So we have about 100 plus templates that come with the plugin. Again, I won't click on all those, but if we go through the different categories here, you can see some of the different types of templates that we have. We have a bunch of calculator templates. We have some demos for some of the more intricate details of WS Form. So if you're looking to learn about how to do file uploads or Google Maps, we actually have some templates that you can play with there. E-commerce for doing basic e-commerce forms, and we have Stripe checkout and things like that, which we'll show you later on. And there's some other usual templates in there, like HR and sales templates as well. Now, in addition to the static templates, we also have what we call dynamic templates. And when you install an add-on for WS Form, for example, MailChimp or Salesforce or Slack, we actually analyze the system that you're connecting to and will then create templates for that particular platform. So to give you a very quick example, that may be a MailChimp list, and we'll show your MailChimp lists in here. And then when you click on that form, it will create a form in one click, literally one click, which will connect to MailChimp and will be ready to use out of the box. So it'll be fully mapped. You can even populate the form with MailChimp data as well and use that kind of an edit profile page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you an example of a template using post management plugin, which is going to create a form which will ultimately create a post in WordPress. And just to make it a little bit more exciting, we're going to show you the ACF integration that we have as well. So ACF is Advanced Custom Fields, and ACF enables you to create custom fields for posts, pages, products, anything that you like in WordPress. We're also fully integrated with MetaBox as well, which is another custom fields plugin. So we have MetaBox and ACF. And what WS Form will do is when I click on that template, it's now actually looking at ACF and looking for any custom fields that we have for a post, and we'll then create a form for us. I'm going to skip that tutorial there. So at the top of the form, we've got all the usual fields that you would expect to see, such as the title, the content, and the excerpt for a post. There's your featured image. And then below that, we've got all the ACF fields that we've got loaded up on this particular install here. So if I open up a separate window, and you can actually see this. So we go to post ACF. Here are my ACF fields that I've configured. And you'll see that WS Form has then added all of those fields to the form automatically. So just give you a very quick overview of the layout editor and how that works. So I think we're the only fully responsive form plugin out there. So some form plugins will just let you put fields on there. Some form plugins will enable you to resize fields. Ours is actually fully responsive. And by that, what I mean is that we have a breakpoint selector at the bottom of the screen here. And what this enables you to do is to design a form for each different device that the form's going to be displayed on. So we've got everything from mobile through to a laptop through to a large size desktop here. And you can preview that by sliding this breakpoint selector at the bottom. The sections and fields that you see here can be fully resized, and you don't need, some plugins you have to put classes in to actually get those to change size. With WS Form, it's drag and drop. So I can resize sections, I can resize fields. I can very easily copy sections as well. And then what I can do is, let's just show you an example of this. If I go full width on mobile, I can then go to the next breakpoint and I can say, right, for this breakpoint, I would like that to be a 2-column format. Same goes for the fields as well. So if I drag this left and right now, you'll see we're now getting different layouts for different breakpoints. So on mobile, you may want to keep those fields full width. And then as we go up, we can then change how this looks according to how big the screen gets. So I can even, add another column there if I want to. So it really is a fully responsive environment for creating forms. In addition to sections and tabs, sections and fields, we also have tabs. So if you want to create a new tab, you just click the Add Tab form at the top. You can actually drag sections between tabs if you want to, and start to lay out your form across multiple tabs. This is how you can create a multi-step form. We have fields that you can add for next tab, previous tab, and navigation between those. I won't go into that into a great deal here, but as you can see, you can basically create multi-step forms very, very easily. In terms of the fields that we have 55 built-in fields. There are a bunch that come with WS Form Pro, and then there are some other fields that get added as a result of installing some of the add-ons. For example, Stripe, for example. So if you install the Stripe add-on, you'll get additional fields for those add-ons. One of the things that we have done with WS Form, which was something that we felt was lacking with other form plugins, was really giving you full control over each field. So if we go into the text field, for example, you can see how many options that we have just for a text field. So you've got all the basic stuff you'd expect to see, like the label, default value, placeholders. Some other plugins, even require additional plugins just to make fields required or hidden and things like that. So we've really tried to bundle in as much functionality as possible into the core system. If we go into advanced here, we have other stuff such as setting classes, we have restrictions. So we've actually built in restricting the maximum number of words, maximum number of characters. We have input masks on there. We've even got deduplication. So you can, for example, dedupe forms by email address or any other field that you want. You have full validation on there, so you can actually customize validation messages. And in addition to that, we're also ARIA compliant all the way through. So for accessibility, you can actually change the ARIA labels throughout the form for every individual field. Our forms are accessibility compliant all the way through. So you really, out of the box, you don't have to do anything for those ARIA labels. They're automatically populated, but you can enter custom field ARIA data in there if you want. We also have data lists on text fields, and that's where if someone's typing in some text into a text field, you can make suggestions that appear beneath that field. So that is an option that not a lot of form plugins offer. I think we're maybe the only one, but that just kind of enables you to do the, someone starts typing in a state name, for example, it will then bring up states that match that you're typing in. I'm going to show you a quick example of just some of the features that we have on just a select field, for example. So if we go to select and we go to options, we have a thing called data sources. So if we go to presets, you can actually choose from a lot of different presets on here. So we could do, for example, counties in the UK, do get data, and it will then pull that data in. I can expand that out so I can have a look at that. We also have a thing called column mapping, which enables, you can actually create additional columns to this data grid, and you can then choose which columns you want to use for different things on your form. For example, you can choose which column you want for labels, which column you want for values. We have a number of different column mappings for different uses in WS Form as well. In addition to using the presets, you can also drag and drop CSV files. So I'm going to drag a CSV file in here. This is a CSV file of different countries. You can see it's pulled in that CSV file, and again, I can choose how I want that to look. So I can use that for the labels. I'll use, say, alpha 2 for the values. We can also auto op group that select drop down as well. So I can say, let's op group that by region. And what that's now done is it's created separate groups for each of the regions in that CSV file. So if we save that and we preview that, that's now giving you, I don't know if you can see that actually.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Mark, we can see the outcome of it, but for some reason we can't actually see the drop downs, but we can see that you're clicking on things and what the result is. But we're all clever enough to know that what's going on.
You know what's going on. So it's basically an op group select drop down on that part there. So let me just show you the more about the preview in WS Forms. Let's go to, let's just create a contact us form, keep it simple, and we'll preview that. Now, one of the things that we have in WS Form is a debug console. One of the annoying parts of developing forms is testing that form, because every time you want to test it, obviously you've got to type in everything into the form and then hit submit, and then you've got to start again. So what we developed was the debug console, and what that enables you to do is click populate, and it'll actually populate that form for you. And that's context sensitive. So if you have an email field, it will put in a dummy email address. If you have a phone field, it will put in a dummy phone field. If you have password fields, it'll actually put the same password in both fields to make sure that your password confirmation works. And every time you click on populate, it's going to give you different data. So it makes testing complicated forms super easy. I can show you a bigger example of that. What I'll do is, let me just import a form so you can see this. Let's go to form testing. We have a form that we use, which is basically every single field type that WS Form has to offer.
The big boy.
The big one, yeah. So if we go into here, you can see an example of all the different field types that WS Form has to offer. And if we click populate, you'll see it's actually gone through and populated everything on that form. There's also a populate and submit. When you click on that, it will populate the form. Oh, it's looking for a file upload. Let's make that not required. And we'll make that one not required as well. And go back to preview, populate and submit. And there you go. That's the form submitted. So that's how quick it is to test forms in WS Form.
That's cool. How many times have I sat there literally filling out blank data over and over again just to make it see if I've actually done things correctly? That's brilliant.
So just going back to that post plugin that we were working on, actually let's recreate that so we've got some fresh data here. So I was messing around with sections and fields. So really this is, like I said, ready out of the box. If we have a look at actions here, and I'll come back to these in a moment, you'll actually see that this form has been mapped to ACF automatically. So when I submit this form, it's going to create a post and populate all of those fields. And again, we can just go to preview. We can do populate and submit. And then if we go into posts, there is our post. And there you can see it's been populated by WS Form. So one of the nice features of that as well is if you're using column sizes in ACF or MetaBox, it will actually import those column sizes as well into the field. So it'll maintain the layout that you wanted. Okay. All right, so let's have a look at the section library that we have as well. So you'll notice on the right-hand side here that we have a field search. So if you can't find a particular field, you can actually type in different keywords in here and it will find that field for you. In addition to be able to drag or click fields onto your form, there's also a section library as well. And the section library enables you to drag and drop pieces of a form onto your form. So rather than having to create an address, for example, you can just drag address over and it will then create that section for you. And I can pull across all types of different pieces of a form and build a form very, very quickly. Now, in addition to that, you can actually create your own sections as well. So if you've created a nice part of a form that you want to be able to reuse on a different form or even on a different client website, you can actually add that to the library. So if I click here, I can click on Add to Section Library, and it will then add that to my section library here, and I can then reuse that wherever I want. You can even take an entire tab and add that to the section library as well. So you'll see here now I've actually got an entire tab of data, and I can drag that over here, and it's then recreated that on the right hand side. So you can actually download sections, tabs, and entire forms as well, and move those between different installations. So migrating data between different forms is super simple.
Is that just is that like a cloud-based thing, or you just download it to your desktop and save it?
Yeah. So the section library here is actually built into WS Form, so it's stored on your server, and then you can also download those files to your computer. And then save those and move those around. It's not cloud-based, so we don't store any of your data.
Good.
So all the data is, all private to you.
Yep.
So let's have a quick look at conditional logic and show you what we can do with that. So a lot of form plugins with conditional logic, what they'll enable you to do is create conditional logic for a field, typically to switch that field on and off. So it'll be something like, if this value equals X, then show this field. With WS Form, we've gone a little bit overboard. So let's show you how this works. Let's go to demos, and I'll pull up this conditional logic demo so you can see. Let's just have a quick look at this demo first, and you can see how this works. So what this is doing is using conditional logic to switch things on and off on this form. So here we're saying, okay, if that's down to below 50, choose the second radio button, sign a signature. Let's get this debug console out of the way. Choose a dark color, type 3 words, they're not really words. Use at least 2 checkboxes, and click me, and you made it to the bomb. So that's a really simple example of conditional logic in WS.
So I really enjoyed watching that. That was great.
Yeah, and you'll see how this works. If we go into the conditional logic here, again, we can expand this out just to make it easier to look at. You can see we've got different conditions for each of those fields. So the difference between WS Form conditional logic and other form plugins is we're a form-centric conditional logic as opposed to field level. And the advantage of that is I can say, if this condition is true, I can actually change any number of fields based upon that condition, rather than it being just focused on one field and having to write conditions for each of those. So let's have a look at rating and how that works. So you can see here what we've done. We've said if that particular field equals 5, then we're then going to show visibility for the next field. Otherwise, we're going to hide the field below that, and we're going to reset the form. So the conditional logic that we have is pretty extensive. For every single form, tab, section, and field, we have different available conditions. And again, I don't think you can see the drop down.
No, sadly not, but we'll stay with the course. Yeah, we'll stay with it.
So there are basically, I mean, just to give you an example, the conditions here, and I'll select a few here so you can kind of see them. You've got like equals, does not equal, all the usual ones, greater than, less than, or equal to. But you've also got things such as, is the field validated? Is the field not validated? Has the field been clicked? Is there a touch start event on that particular field?
Whoa, okay.
Is there a blur event? Has the field been changed? Is there a change or an input event occurring on that particular field? So that's just for a text field. Things such as color fields, for example, if we go to colors, you can actually choose lightness less than, greater than on the lightness. Is the hue less than? Does the RGB value equal something? So you'll see how each field type has its own set of conditional logic.
Yeah.
So in addition to that, on the then part of it for a particular field, those are also field centric as well. So we can do stuff like set the value, set it disabled, set it read only. You can also do set custom validity, which will actually set a custom invalid feedback message on that field. You can add classes, you can reset fields, etc., etc. So it goes on and on. It's a huge library of different things that you can do with conditional logic, and it really enables you to very rapidly create interactive forms without having to do all the JavaScript that's required for that on the front end. That's really been the aim with this conditional logic. And we've had some clients create some really magical and crazy forms using this conditional logic.
Can you chain those things together such that, I don't know, if this field and that field, I don't know, let's say the name field is filled in and the hue of this particular color field is below this value, then the submit button will appear. But unless both of those conditions are fulfilled, okay. So
you can. Yeah. So you'll see there's a little plus button.
Got it. Here. Oh, yes.
You can actually do that and that. Then you also have groups as well. So you can do that and that, or
wow.
If this is set to this. So yeah, you can do quite complicated if conditions with that. Conditional logic can also be used to do things such as save the form or submit the form or run a particular action. We'll come on to actions in a moment. So for example, you can do things such as form abandonment, and making sure that if someone partially fills out a form, you capture that data. So you could, for example, on an email field, say, if the email field has changed, then save the form, and it will then save that data back into the database, and you'll see that you've got a partial fill out there. So that's a useful little tool for form abandonment. Again, I could go on forever with this and showing you how that works. One of the nice things about the conditional logic as well is as you hover over the fields, it actually shows you which conditional logics are involved with that field, which makes it super easy to identify where certain conditional logic is.
Oh, I see. On the right panel. Okay. Yeah. You're hovering and it shows you on the right. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see the yellow tone there on that.
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
And then on the right-hand side, likewise, when you open one of these, it'll actually show you which fields or sections are involved in that particular logic. So if I actually choose a section, you'll see the section lights up. If I choose a tab, the tab lights up. So it's just a nice way of giving you a visual representation of where that conditional logic is applied. So that's your conditional logic. And then in addition to conditional logic, we also have what are called WS form variables. And you can, within certain field types, you can insert values. So you could do things like hash, blog, admin email. We put the email address in there. We also have calculated fields. So you can do things like hash calc, hash field. Oh, if I can type properly. 123 plus 123. So that would basically insert the value of field 123 plus a value of 123 to it. So you can create really complex calculated forms, and these all update dynamically. If we have time, I'll show you a calculated form at the end.
I'd love that because yeah. Okay, that would be good. Yes, please.
Yeah. So we'll go through calculated stuff towards the end. Let's have a quick look at actions and show you how that works. So there's unconditional logic, and then we have actions. So actions are basically the output of your form, anything that happens when that form is saved or it is submitted. So typically when you submit a form, you're going to want to receive an email. So let me just show you an example of some of the actions that you can do. So I've got a very basic contact us form here. Here are the actions. Again, we'll expand that out so we can see it. So the first thing it's going to do is save the form to the submission. So that's basically saving a backup of the form to the database. We have a show message action here, and we can expand the config on here and actually see what's going to happen with that. So that's saying, please show a message in the form of a success message that will say, thank you for your inquiry. We can say where we want that message to appear. You can actually tell WS form to scroll to the top of the page if you want to. So we have like instant scroll, smooth scroll. In addition to that, you can say how long you want that message to appear for. So if you want that message to appear for 4 seconds, you can put 4,000 milliseconds in there. And then you can actually say after 4,000 milliseconds, what do you want to do with that message? So we can say, okay, hide the message, or we can re-show the form after 4,000 milliseconds, anything you want. The reason we have that delay on there is you might want to show the message for a few seconds and then perhaps redirect off somewhere else afterwards. So you can actually stack these actions one on top of the other. Sending an email. So in here we can see that we've got the from address, the from display name, to address of where that email is going to go to. You can actually put in here multiple email addresses as well if you want. So I could put mark@wsform.com, put my display name in there. I could add another one. Just say you work at WS Form today, Nathan.
Okay.
And then we've also got round robin as well, which is nice. So if you've got, say, a sales team with 3 different salespeople, we could send the inquiries to each of the people in that sales team equally. So you could say, right, you'll get the first email, you get the second email, you get the third, and then back to the foot again. That's called round robin. You can also adjust the percentage of which those people receive those emails as well. So if we wanted me to get more leads than you, I can actually adjust the percentages in here. So that's a built-in feature again, no additional plugins or anything required. In fact, everything I've shown you so far is built into the core product. So there's your message. You can also attach files to it. So if someone has uploaded a file to a form, you can attach that as a field attachment. If you have any, sometimes you may want to send a PDF to a customer in addition to a response that they received just to say thank you, or maybe they're requesting, I don't know, a sales PDF flyer or something like that. You can attach that just by choosing a file from your media library. And then we have some more advanced features in here, like adding header keys and things like that. Some SMTP providers enable you to put header data in there for tracking purposes and stuff like that. So we have the ability for you to manage that as well. Some of the other actions that we have, again, you're not going to be able to see this pull down, but I'll show a few of them to you. Running a WordPress hook. So if you want to run an action or a filter when that form is submitted, you can do that, which enables you to run your own custom PHP code to do whatever you want, basically. So you could create to your own custom integration. You can actually modify the submission using PHP code before it reaches other parts of the system. So if you want to modify the submission prior to the other actions running, you can actually do that with this run WordPress hook. And then for each add-on that you have, for example, adding a form to Google Sheets, you can do that. You can push a message to Slack. Again, each of these has their own configuration settings, which I won't go into today. But there's a lot you can do with this. Conversion tracking, so you can fire Google Analytics tags, Facebook tags, LinkedIn tags. We also support data erasure requests and data export requests, which is a little known feature in WordPress. But for GDPR compliance, if you want to be able to offer your end users the ability for them to make a data export or a data erasure request, we actually have an action that triggers that process in WordPress automatically. And then you've got stuff like the post management, which is for creating posts. You can actually run JavaScript. So if you want to run some JavaScript when that form is submitted, you can do that. You can actually put our variables in that as well. So you can incorporate our variables into your JavaScript to make that even more dynamic. And it goes on. There are umpteen different actions that you can do. You can copy actions very easily. So if you want to send an email to somebody else, you can just copy these. You can reorder these actions. So for example, if you had various show messages, we can actually reorder those very, very easily. So that's your actions. Now,
that's amazing, because normally you just submit the form, right? That's what we normally get. Submit the form, maybe go off and send it to this third-party integration, but you can just do so much clever stuff with that. That's really remarkable.
Yeah. So you could push it to Google Sheets, to Salesforce, and MailChimp all at the same time. That's all possible. You can send unlimited number of emails with it as well. You can actually fire actions, run actions using conditional logic as well. So you could say, right, if someone puts their mouse over this first name field, run an action. And, you could push that data to MailChimp if you wanted to. So it's very, very dynamic. Okay, so that's actions. Let's have a quick look at the e-commerce capabilities of WS Form. So just a very basic e-commerce form to start off with. Let's create that template. So again, fully mobile responsive e-commerce form. You can move this around in any way that you wish. This just gives you a very basic demo of what it's capable of. So people can put their own amounts in. You can fix the amounts. You can do price selects. You can do price checkboxes. You can choose products by radio. You've even got a price range selector, so you can choose a price using a slider. And then I've actually got that tied in. We've got, for example, on this particular one, Stripe. So you can add a Stripe card field and a Stripe checkout on that if you want to. I'll just drag it on there so you can see what that looks like. That's really how easy it is to connect.
Yeah, you're done. E-commerce taken care of. Nice.
Yeah. So there's your credit card entry there. If I hit submit, obviously that will fail because Stripe's going to say the card's incomplete. But the nice thing about that is you can actually put that credit card anywhere you want on that form and style that in any way you want. So if you wanted that side by side, you'll notice as I change this, the preview is actually automatically updating as I do that. Which just makes
you're not even refreshing it. It's just doing it. Nice.
Yeah. So we have a live preview. Usually what I would do is have this split between two windows.
Yeah.
You've got one showing the preview and one showing the actual builder. So that's your kind of basic e-commerce. Now, in addition to that, we also have a WooCommerce integration. So let me show you that. So what you can do with WS Form is place any form on a WooCommerce product. So here's an example of a WS form which is on a t-shirt product in WooCommerce. So I'm going to choose a regular variation in WooCommerce. But then what I can do is I can then use the conditional logic and features of WS Form to actually modify that product. So here I've got like a signature field. So I can choose to say that I've actually approved that design. You'll notice the WooCommerce add to cart button here will only become live once the form is validated. So it actually integrates in with the WooCommerce interface to make that dynamic. You can also do stuff like custom text and things like that. Font size. Choose a font. So there's a lot that you can do with that to customize products. So in addition to stuff like that, here's a fun example of a pizza selector.
That is great.
This is actually using checkboxes in a form and then each of these has a price behind the scenes. This is actually called a price checkbox, which is really simple. You just put a price on it, you choose a name for it, and it'll then add the price of that product on there as you add more and more pineapple and whatever else is your preference on a pizza.
That's ingenious.
Multi-tab forms. So you'll see here's an example of a multi-tab form within an actual product. So here, as we type stuff in, we've also got a progress bar. And here's that next tab that I was talking about earlier. You can see there that I'm actually changing an e-commerce price slider, and it's changing the WooCommerce product price as well.
So good. Yeah.
And there's our approval, and then add to cart, we can add that. So if I click add to cart, you can see how that looks. So it basically adds those as cart metadata of all the options that we chose. And when they check out, that then becomes part of the order. It'll also support things like file uploads. There's a bunch of different demos on here if you want to have a look at it. This is woocommerce.wsform.com. Repeaters is another feature that we have. These are repeaters that work. You don't have to do any coding with them. They support all of our different field types, and you can basically do stuff like add a row, remove a row. You can even drag and drop the repeaters as well.
Nice.
And reorder them. Yeah.
And the repeaters could be grouped. You could have a group of fields, could you, that would then repeat?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. So very, very simple to do. I'll show you a very, very quick example. Just take that contact us form. Here's how easy it is to do repeaters. You just click section and you enable it.
Yeah, that really is easy.
Okay. You'll see it added some icons for us because it didn't find any user interface for that. So then when we preview that, I can then...
Yeah, there you go. Look at that.
Yeah. And if you resize that to 50%, you can get some quite interesting effects with that. It'll be side by side. But yeah. So that's how easy repeaters are. And those repeaters, incidentally, are compatible with ACF and Metabox as well. So if you've got a group, in fact, yeah, if I go to add new here, go to post, let's just recreate that. I believe there was a repeater at the top of this. So if we preview that form, there's the repeater. So that's actually a repeater in ACF that's been brought across.
Nice. Yeah,
and
yeah.
It becomes part of that form. Yeah. One thing I forgot to mention on the ACF side is if you have any, like a select box or a checkbox, anything that has options in ACF or Metabox, we dynamically update those using a data source. So you see here I've chosen a data source of ACF field options. And here are all of the fields I have in ACF that have options. So if I change that option in ACF, it will then update dynamically on your form.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. So that's the WooCommerce extension. That's actually sold exclusively through WooCommerce.com and is supported through them as well. But it's a great little add-on. That there's a lot that you can do with that, and there's a bunch of demos here. If anybody wants to have a look at those, just go to WooCommerce.wsform.com, and you can see some examples of how forms can be integrated. So here's an example of putting a map on a product. All right. So let's have a quick look at the calculators that you wanted to have a look at.
Oh yes, this is so cool. I really go soup to nuts here because I think this is so special.
So let's choose one of these. Let's do the dreaded car payment. So this is an example of how you can build a calculator in WS Form. So if we preview it, this is what it looks like on the front end. So let's say $10,000 sales tax. Pay your interest rate, length of loan. So you'll see this is fully dynamic. It's all being calculated on the client side as you change features on here. And the way this is done is in this particular example, this is not how you have to do it all the time, but we have a bunch of hidden fields that basically do calculations. And then we use those hidden fields as we work our way through this form. Now this granted, this is quite a complicated example of using calculations. We have some other examples on the WS Form site. So let's go there and I'll show you in our knowledge base. We've got a very extensive knowledge base that talks you through, we actually have a bunch of tutorials in here that show you how to do different things. So if you want to learn about conditional logic or how to populate forms, we have a bunch of different stuff in there, but we have a calculated fields knowledge base article here. And this just shows you some of the things you can do. So you've got basic arithmetic in there, addition, subtraction. You've got some more complex stuff in there, such as cosine, floor, logarithmic, max, min, all that kind of stuff. You can do average, so you can take the average from a certain number of fields and work out that value. This is cool. So this is actually using range sliders with calculated fields and repeat.
Look at that. So just because you can.
Just because you can, really, yeah. The idea behind this is to show how calculations can actually be used between a non-repeater section and a repeater. Right. So this is a non-repeating range slider here, and we're saying within that repeater, get the value of that range slider and put it in here. So you'll see as I change that, it's actually affecting everything within those repeaters. If I change it within that, then it doesn't, because that's local to that range slider. Sorry, that repeater. But that just kind of shows you that we've really thought about everything.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
If you add something here, it's going to work over here. There's really no limitation on what you can do, within the confines of the functionality that we provide. Here's an example of a rating and actually producing.
Oh, that's genius. Then you get the average overall.
Yeah, and again, that's with a repeater. So I can add additional rows and it will then recalculate that.
Huh.
Yeah. And that's
all
so
useful for products and all sorts of things, isn't it? That's brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, that's done very simply just with that calculation there. So that's just saying calculate the sum of these rating fields here, which are field ID 1, 2, 3, and divide that by the number of counts in the row, the number of row count that we've got. So that would be divided by 4, and then you just put that in the default value for that rating field. Yeah. Things like dates as well, so you can do calculate someone's date, how old they are. So we've got a bunch of examples on there that show you how to do that. You can actually download any of these demos from our website and import them into your form. And a lot of those demos are actually in WS Form as a template. So a lot of these templates, you can just literally click on them. And the nice thing about these demos is if you do need to build a card payment template for somebody, for example, you can then edit that and do anything that you want with it. So it's fully responsive and can be adjusted to your needs. In addition to the kind of layout stuff that I showed you, we've also got full undo on WS Form as well. So let me just make a few changes here. So in the toolbox here, we have an undo tab, and this actually,
look at that! Yeah.
So you've got full undo back to the initial form when you loaded the page, and you can jump back to any step.
So it's this session, if you like. It's not throughout
the
history
right.
of the form.
We store that client side, and then if you make any mistakes as you're going along, then you can go back. It's one of the reasons that we have this save and close feature and save in WS Form is that sometimes you will be editing a text field or select box or whatever it may be. You might make quite a few changes to it and then decide, I don't want that. So you can always click cancel to cancel the changes you've made, or you can click save. And when you click save, it then creates an undo point for the change that you've made. So you can go back a step. You've got support built into the actual plugin itself, so you can search for articles. So you can do like calculated search, and it'll bring up knowledge-based articles there, which you can then click on. You can actually contact our support team from within the plugin itself, and you can also attach your form and send us your form. So the advantage of that is when we receive your support ticket, we actually get a copy of your form and we can check out what's going on and see if there's any issues.
That's really, so there's none of this toing and froing with, can you put it up on a page and give us access to your, that's brilliant. Nice.
Yeah. Most of the time we'll ask people for an export of their form because it's so much easier to then visualize what they're doing and identify if they're making a mistake somewhere. We can help them out with that and fix that issue. And then you can also attach your system info to us as well. So within our system page, we actually have a system report that gives us a run view of what's going on your server, so we can just see if there's any conflicts or anything going on. And also, as you type your inquiry as well, if you start typing certain things, we actually analyze what you're typing in and we'll suggest knowledge-based articles to help you out, to save you having to contact us. So we'll try and point you in the right direction before you get in touch with us. Some of the other features that we have are things like spam protection. So we have human presence built into WS Form, which is a nice feature. Human presence is an AI system which will analyze behavior on your website and determine if that user is actually a human or not. And
clever. What, like how quickly they're doing things, that kind of.
Yeah. So I don't know how it works. It's quite clever, but we're integrated in with that, and that can help prevent spam on your website quite significantly. We have a Kismet integration as well, so you can analyze content of fields, and if it finds spam within those fields, then it will then reject or enable those. So you've actually got a spam threshold here, so you can determine at what level you want to accept anything that we consider spam, because we score spam from 0 to 100. And then you've got basic stuff like honeypot. Honeypot we typically switch off now because autocomplete on browsers can actually break honeypot. The way honeypot works is it's essentially a hidden field that no one can see. It's kind of off the side of the form, and we expect that field to be blank when we receive it. And typically a spam bot will come across and fill out every field. So if that field gets completed, we know it's spam. But the problem is that browsers now autocomplete fields.
Right, yeah.
And it'll put something in there, and then the spam will get through. So, or it'll break the honeypot. We have limiting, so you can actually limit the number of submission counts that you get on a form. You can actually do that for all time, or you can do it per hour. You can do it per day, per week, per month, and per year. You've got scheduling of forms. You can also determine who can see that form. So you could say, okay, only show that to logged in users, or only show that to users that have a certain user role or capability. We have tracking, so you can enable tracking very easily. All tracking is switched off by default, just to make sure that our forms out of the box are GDPR compliant. But if you've asked a user for permission to track them, you can enable, remote IP tracking, agent referrer. We also have IP lookup of city, region, country, and time zone, and also latitude and longitude as well. So when someone submits their form, you can determine geographically where they are based upon their IP address. Not 100% accurate, but it's a good indication of where
it's a decent go, yeah.
We also have Google Analytics event tracking built in, so we can actually fire events off to Google Analytics whenever a tab or a field is touched. So you can actually see kind of a map of where people are going on your website. We have conversational form well. So
oh yeah, I did want to mention this. This is new, isn't it? And really cool.
Yeah. So this is just another way of presenting a form to a user in a full screen format. And you've probably seen these before on other websites, but let's just see if we can get this working on the screen share. Oh, we've got to publish it first. Let's get that going. Yeah, there we go. So it's basically a full screen format for a form, and when you click on it, it asks you one question at a time. So as you fill this form out, it jumps down the page, and it's just a nice way. Yeah, just kind of one question at a time.
It's a nice implementation as well, because it also gives you a real view of what's coming and what's been. Yeah. Often it's literally one question, and
right.
You don't really know where you're heading sometimes.
Yeah, and if you want that full screen format, you can do that. So the way that this works is each section becomes one of the questions. The nice thing about our conversational is that you can actually put multiple fields in each of these sections.
Yeah, so I saw that. Yeah, so not just one question at a time. Right.
Yeah, so if you want to ask a group of questions per section, you can do that. And then for each of these sections, you can, under advanced, actually say, make that full height. So you can do that one question per page effectively.
If you wish, right.
Yeah. So that's conversational, quite simple. And then we also have a customize feature as well, which enables you to change colors and fonts and border widths and all kinds of stuff to adjust the look and feel of your form if you want to. Now, obviously, if you're a developer, you can use CSS to do that. But we've used the actual WordPress customize feature to implement this so that people are familiar with it. One of the things
that would be global across the whole site. It would, each form, once you've set this up, it would obey that. Yeah, correct. That's nice.
Yeah, because typically you want those styles to apply to the overall theme of the website. So again, if you're using a framework like Bootstrap or Foundation, this will be formatted out of the box to whatever you set your Bootstrap and Foundation styling to be. But if you're not using one of those frameworks and you want to use our framework, because we have a fallback framework for any other theme that's out there, then you can use that customized tool to adjust the fonts and colors and everything else that you might need. So I think that's about it, Nathan.
Well, I'll tell you what, we've in about 56 minutes or whatever it is, you've managed to squeeze in a very sort of high-level overview. What I would say is, anybody watching this, if you've sort of got that what's the word? If you've got that sort of spidey sense that there's more under the hood, then you're right. There's a boatload of stuff under that there just isn't time to go through. But hopefully. Anybody who's watching this, whether you're watching it live or you've watched it after the fact, like this, just exactly that, you'll get an impression that this isn't something which was sort of just thrown out last week, and it is a mystery to me how come not everybody's talking about WS Form, but there is a reason for that, isn't there? And it's just the way you've decided to approach marketing of it.
Yeah, and it's, we do have a free version. There's a light version in the WordPress directory if anybody wants to try that. It's kind of it's good enough to build a contact us form. It stores submissions and everything else. But so the Pro version, we have 3 different versions, and I can show you the pricing for those, so everyone's aware of that. Just one thing I wanted to quickly show you is we do have a migrate tool as well, so you can migrate from Gravity Forms, Visual Form Builder, and WP Forms. It'll pull across the form and all the submissions as well. We're going to be importing some other features into that later on, some other form plugins. Pricing, we have 3 different price levels. You've got the personal license, which is 1 site, and that includes all the templates, all the field types, the conditional logic that I showed you, all the calculated fields, all the pro actions that we have. So that's things like running a hook or a filter, push into a custom API endpoint and things like that. So that's $59 a year. Then we have a freelance version, which is 5 site license, and that comes with a few more bells and whistles. So we throw in a few of the common add-ons that people may need. And then we also have the agency, and the agency basically includes everything. So you've got all of the post management, the user management, the ACF demo I showed you earlier with the ability to create posts and pages from forms. That actually works with users as well. So you can use the user management plugin to create users with custom ACF fields or MetaBox fields as well. And it'll also read that data in, so you can create edit profile pages, forgotten password pages, reset password, etc., etc. So this one's kind of the all singing, all dancing, and that's unlimited websites as well. So
that is nice.
And one of the things that we do is we don't renew at the discount original price. So if you buy it at $249, we renew at $249.
Okay.
Pretty much all the other plugins that do forms will give you an introductory lower rate and then charge you the full rate the following year, but we retain that rate all the way through.
Speaking of pricing, very quickly, I did say to everybody that there was going to be some sort of nice offer that you put together, which I'm going to just put up on the screen. There's a link there. That's an affiliate link. So if you use that link, so be it. I'll get a small kickback. But if you just go, you can figure it out for yourself how to purchase this. But the coupon code for 20% off, I'm guessing that's on everything that we just saw.
Everything.
From agency right through to the sort of starter plan.
Yeah.
The code is, WP Builds, all capital letters. I don't know if that's important, but
I don't think it is, but yeah.
No, okay, yeah. Just use all capital letters just in case. And you're going to get 20% off, so that's really nice. Thank you for offering that. That's amazing. Right, brilliant. I interrupted you. Carry on.
No, I was just checking to see if we had any questions from anybody.
We do. We've got a few. Firstly, there's a few people who are just really... I don't know who these people are because they didn't click the button. But one person is just really just singing your praises. He says it's an amazing form plugin, nice. Great support too. We use it extensively for logic and payment forms. Well, we've just had a demo of how simple that is. And I'm guessing this is the same person because they also say it's perfect for quizzes, which is... a nice use case. Peter Ingersoll, who he's frequently in our chat, and he is a toolset user, which is a kind of in the case that he's talking about. I think he's probably talking about the fact that it can set custom fields up. I mean, it does a boatload of other stuff as well. But do you have any plans for toolset custom fields?
We do. So there's toolset. There's one other, I forget the name of it now. But there's a couple of others that we're looking at right now. We did MetaBox. MetaBox only launched about 2 weeks ago. Yeah. Toolset's probably going to be the next one that we do. And then when there's pods. I don't know how I forgot pods, but pods is on its way as well.
Oh, great! Because we have quite a lot of interaction about pods. We speak quite a lot about Scott Kingsley Clark and all the great stuff he's doing. And I know that there's quite a few users in the group who pods is their go-to. So that's great. Oh, fabulous!
And we do kick out these new features quite quickly. And we do listen to our customers as well. Just for give an example, yesterday I was contacted by a customer saying, I want to be able to redirect to a different page based upon the state that someone chooses. And they wanted to do it by time zone. So they wanted to be able to say, if the state is one of these 15 different states, go to this page. So we actually added a feature for them yesterday, which enabled them to choose multiple states in their conditional logic, as opposed to having to do this or this or this or this.
Oh,
So
I
we,
see. Yeah, that gets yeah. Okay. Yeah.
yeah, so we just made that easier for them and launched a new feature. Now I can't promise that we'll do that all the time, but we do list, and we actually have a feature request page on wsform.com as well, where people can vote on new features, and we work our way through that and make sure that we keep developing the product and keep moving it forwards.
Okay. If you've got any more questions, time is running short, so be sure to put them in very quickly. I've got one. It's not really. This is another question from Peter. He's asking, is human presence an additional fee? How does it work in terms of the pricing?
Yeah, I believe Human Presence have a free single site license that you can try, and then they charge for licenses over and beyond that. So you can, I think there's a link on our plugin you can click to sign up and try it on your website for free. The Human Presence functionality that we have is built into WS Form. There's no additional charge for it.
Fantastic, thank you. And again, Peter, he's put a few in. He's just saying that handling of spam is the single biggest problem. Yeah, it really is, isn't it? And it's so
it is. And one of the
annoying.
things that we do a few things behind the scenes as well on the spam front to try and minimize that. So all of our forms use what are called WordPress nonces to make sure that the submissions are coming from an actual page that's been rendered. And there's a few other things that we do behind the scenes to try and minimize spam. And we really don't get many reports of serious spam going through our system because of that. But the human presence and the Akismet stuff that we do as well is additional levels of protection there.
Yeah, good to know though. That's great. Andrew Palmer, the Facebook user, is Andrew Palmer. I don't know if you know Andrew Palmer, but he's
know him very well.
Yeah, there you go. It's Andrew Palmer. And hello to Mans. I'm going to say Mans is the name. He says he's a happy customer, delighted with the plugin. Great. It works great, deeply impressed with your support. And I'm assuming that Mans isn't part of your team or anything like that. He's just he's out there being a nice guy, promoting you to the community. That's absolutely lovely.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you. Okay, so one last thing. I think we're probably a couple of minutes over. Apologise for keeping your time going like that. Sorry about that, Mark. But quick last one. If you want 20% off, Mark has very kindly given 20% off. Oh, I should ask. It's a bit of a cheeky question. Does that carry? Would the 20%, is that for the first year, and then we're up to the normal pricing? Is that how it works?
It's for the first year, but we're usually running a special offer somewhere. So you're welcome to use a coupon to renew in the second year
That's great.
And beyond if you want to.
Yep. So that's my affiliate link. Use the code WP Builds, all uppercase, no spaces, and make sure that you can make sure that you make use of that. I don't know if it's got a time limit on it, Mark, or if it's
open, so they can use it whenever they want.
Oh, they're the best ones, because then I don't have to think about it again. I don't have to go and remove it from the Facebook post or anything in a week's time.
Just leave it up.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah. Quick last one. Where do people, if their interest has been piqued, let's say they're watching this in November later on in the year, best way to get in touch with you as opposed to the company? What's the best way to get in touch with you personally?
Just email Mark, MARK, at wsform.com, and that will get straight through to me.
Okay, Mark at wsform.com. Mark, that was absolutely brilliant. Scratch the surface is the right word for it.
Yeah.
But I hope that the people watching, thank you for joining us. Hope you got something out of it. Go and buy it. If you haven't, go and try it out. And Mark, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.